Hogstye.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to a late night edition of the Hogstye. This is your host, Alex, with you. I got Steve here. It is 11:30 p.m. Eastern Time. The Washington football team just took a 2-point win over Seattle, somehow overcoming massive numbers of injuries to key players, overcoming the curse of Monday night, overcoming the curse of the all burgundy uniforms, and just overcoming everything else that seemed like it was about to go wrong in the final 2 minutes of that game. They hold on for a win. Big win for the team. They are now technically in the playoffs if the season were to end today. So that's, a huge turnaround from where we were 3 weeks ago, Steve.
Who decided there was a curse of all burgundy uniforms?
The fact that I think they've gone like 2-10 in all burgundy uniforms.
Listen, they've gone like 2-10 in every uniform.
If you there was a thing done once. It's by far their least lucky uniform. If they had,
I don't really so much care what uniform they wear as long as it's not all white. All white is absurd and ridiculous.
That's their highest winning percentage uniform.
I don't care what percent. The uniforms have nothing to do with anything.
Sure they do. You can see people better in all white.
Oh, it's garbage. Look, white is not a team color. You don't get to dress in home uniforms that aren't a team color. That's my major problem with it.
But Joe Gibbs wore white all the time.
So, doesn't mean I like it. Joe Gibbs didn't do everything right. He didn't.
George Allen did it. Now, his son was a total idiot. We don't want to talk about him. But George Allen was a good guy. White uniforms at home.
So what? It's not a team color.
Yeah. It's a silly thing, I know. I just think the all burgundy looks bad.
I don't care. As long as it's a team color, I'm fine with whatever.
Well,
basically.
Be ready. We're going to be wearing, I don't know, black and pink in 2022.
Well, I won't be a fan anymore. I mean, it's as simple as that. My time on this show will end if they do that, and I'm not.
I know. Frankly,
I'm
mine
not
will
kidding.
too. If they change the away from burgundy and gold, I'll
it's
probably.
It's not the same. Wouldn't be the same team, you know.
Yeah.
I'd go root for the Bears. Some.
Let's
do the stats real fast.
Big win. Steve, hit me with some numbers. Let's refocus with some numbers and get started.
All right, Taylor Heineke was 27 of 35 for 223 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, quarterback rating of 90.5. Antonio Gibson in his best game in a long, long time, certainly this season, 29 for 111, average of 3.8 yards per attempt, which is still bad, but by his standards, that's good, long as 17. J.D. McKissick, 7 for 30, 4.3 yards per attempt. Johnny Carter, 1 for 4. Curtis Samuel, 1 for 4. Taylor Heineke, 1 for 3. Jarrett Patterson, 1 for 0 yards. In receiving wise, Terry McLaurin, 4 for 51 on 7 targets, no touchdowns. DeAndre Carter, 4 for 42. Antonio Gibson, 7 for 35. Logan Thomas, 3 for 31. J.D. McKissick, 5 for 26. John Bates, 1 for 15. Adam Humphries, 2 for 14. Curtis Samuel, 1 for 9. And on the Seattle side, Russell Wilson was 20 for 31, 247 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, quarterback rating of 110.6. Rushing wise, they were just terrible. They really couldn't rush at all. Wilson was 2 for 16. Alex Collins was 7 for 14. And that was it, folks. DJ Dallas, 3 for 4. Receiving wise, Tyler Lockett, 3 for 96. Gerald Everett, 5 for 37. And DK Metcalf, surprisingly, was only 1 for 13. And defense, Landon Collins was the leading tackler. The 2 sacks were Cam Curl and Shaka Toney. There were no turnovers. And in the battle of the punters, Tress Way, 5 for 218 yards, and Michael Dixon for the Seahawks, just crazy, 8 for 400 yards punting.
Wow.
Yeah, that's insane. So
I mean, in our worst days, I don't think Tress Way has had many 400-yard games.
No, I mean, there's been a bunch in the 300s.
Yeah,
I wouldn't swear that he never hit 400. I'd have to go back and look, but
yeah, I would say maybe it's happened once. It's that kind of rarity.
I don't remember, but yeah, it's certainly very rare. That's a heck of a punting, heck of a punting game. Yeah. So anyway, that's stats here on Hogstye Late Night. I mean, look, I don't necessarily think this is one of these games that Washington escaped. And on Monday Night Football, we'll take any level of victory possible.
Sure.
But I
Absolutely.
mean, the offense, stunk up a big one for most of the night.
Well,
Go
let's
ahead.
talk about why, though, because I think that's important to context.
Okay.
They clearly, when Sly went down, they got that lead back, and then they played scurred. Like, I've never seen this is like 1980s, the most conservative offense that you could run when you're up by a point or two. Like, running every down you can, just trying to drain the clock and end that game as fast as possible kind of offense. That's what they were doing in the second half.
I mean, at the end of the day, they didn't run the ball very, very well, except in the fourth quarter.
No, they
And
didn't run it well, but they ran it a lot.
they did run it a lot, but I mean, at halftime, Gibson was averaging 3 yards a carry. At the end of the third quarter, 3.2 yards per carry.
Sure.
I mean, McKissick only had 5 carries at the end of the third quarter, 5 for 27. And so, I mean, part of the reason why we saw 3-and-out after 3-and-out after 3-and-out from Washington and Seattle both was they just weren't accomplished. They just were not running the ball well. And
No,
I mean, Taylor Heineke had a pretty good completion percentage for sure, and he looked like did Taylor Heineke things, but that running game just kills him.
it was killing them. The fact that, and I don't know if you heard this on the broadcast early on, Steve, because I know sometimes it's weird when you're watching it. Um, they said that Washington on 3rd and 1s has run 100% of the time.
Yeah,
Yeah, and that just keeps on being a thing, which Seattle figured out, and it wasn't fooling it. Seattle was putting 10 dudes in the box on 3rd and 1, and we still just ran it out of shotgun, didn't get a yard, and punted.
I don't know why you can't just take it under center and quarterback sneak it for at least once out of all those
Hell,
attempts.
run a read option where Heineke keeps it. Even
Well,
that
how
would be
about
more original than what
just
they've been doing.
power I for God's sakes?
Power eye.
How hard
Hey,
is
you know
that?
what? This I think was only the second game where I've seen them actually line up in what I would call a classic I formation, where you have somebody playing fullback, because they were doing that in the red zone quite a bit this week.
Yeah, they did it a few weeks ago, a couple times, but yeah, they certainly did it more
Yeah, this is the
this time.
most I've seen Heineke actually under center in any game.
I mean, this is certainly nothing that the Washington's offense is going to write home about. They didn't do
No,
really much well at all. But again, I mean, overcoming the curse of Monday Night Football and getting a victory, even if against just the worst Seattle team I've ever seen, none of that really matters when you're talking about how incredibly awful Washington's been up until
yeah,
now on Monday
yeah,
Night Football.
no,
Were they 1-7? I think the broadcast said.
yeah,
I
one
believe
and seven since 2014.
I
Although
wrote a whole column about
technically,
this at one point in time. It's out there if you guys want to look it
yeah,
up.
technically they won against the Steelers last year, but it wasn't considered Monday Night Football because it was the early game or whatever.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
Yeah,
again, if you guys want to search for it, I did a whole analysis of the Redskins in prime time. I don't know, a year or two ago, but
yeah.
it's bad. But regardless, anyway, so
It's
yeah.
like a 10.1 something winning percentage, right? It's
Oh, they're
ridiculously.
terrible. They're almost the worst in the league. Injury wise, let's knock this out too. Um, Obviously he came back, but Antonio Gibson went out briefly. The big
Right.
one was Wes Schweitzer went down with an ankle, so they're down to
That
like
was.
their.
Did you see the replay of that when they played it in slow mo? That's a bad, like something popped out of something there.
Yeah, it didn't look good.
Yeah.
And so they're down to like their 195th string center at this point, which
Right.
is, Keith Ishmael.
Right.
Um, and then Joey Sly went down with what looked like a hamstring injury.
Yeah.
JD McKissick, when I didn't hear, I don't know if you saw on Twitter, I didn't check Twitter at all. If anybody said what
I
McKissick's
didn't see
injury
any
was.
details. I was worried when they showed the replay that this was like a spine neck thing, but the
I thought
good
it was a concussion, but he looked fine on the
yeah,
cart.
when he got on the cart, I noticed all four arms and legs were moving. So that's a good sign. Like anytime a guy gets hit like that, you worry it's like a nerve thing.
So we have no knowledge
Yeah.
what the injury was. Again, I thought it was concussion, but we'll see. And then the last one was Landon Collins went out at the tail end of the game there. So
Yeah.
no information on that either. So while it wasn't really a body bag game, they lost a bunch of important players. And if Joey Sly is really hurt, that may mean that Washington will have their fourth kicker
Yeah.
of the season.
Yep. Going to kicker number 4 and probably kicker number 5 would be my guess, just because that's what happens when you hit the kicker carousel.
I mean, we warned you guys that this would happen. Everybody who thinks they're smart enough to cut Dustin Hopkins.
Well, I
But
mean, look, I like Joey Sly. I think
he's
he's
done
been
well.
he's been pretty good. That kick was low, sure, but it was also terribly blocked. That one that got
It
returned
was
for
also a
2.
strange hold by Tress Way too, if you
Yeah.
noticed.
Well,
I've, by the way, never seen that before in the NFL. I don't think with with the kickoff or the extra point returned all the way for to the end zone like that. That was a first for me, I think.
in the NFL, yeah, it's pretty
I've seen it
rare.
in college.
Yeah, in college you see it time to time. Like, and even in college, so it's like a once or twice a year thing. It
Well, yeah,
doesn't
think of
happen
the
often.
odds of that. Think of the odds of blocking any kick are low, and then
Right.
the odds of getting the ball back and then being able to run it all the way back.
Like even a
It's
bad college, you have what, maybe a 5% chance of blocking a kick at most.
I don't know. I
Yeah,
mean,
it's
whatever.
very
Who
low.
knows? Yeah,
Yeah,
very low.
yeah.
So very
So
low percentage. The strange play. What else on offense? I mean, the emergence of DeAndre Carter. He didn't have great, super numbers,
no, he's a
but
reliable number 4 though. That's what he's shown himself to be,
he's
in
a
my
he's a
opinion.
player.
Yeah.
Call him whatever number you want. I mean, the bottom line is he can make plays. I think he's been drastically underestimated by every team he's been on. He just needed a chance.
Hmm.
And the one thing I like about him, he's more dynamic. Like Adam Humphries is the opposite of dynamic.
Right.
He's if dynamic had a complete opposite, that's Adam Humphries
Well, they're both natural fits in the slot for different reasons, right?
for
Like
different reasons, right?
Humphreys is a slot guy, kind of like a old tight end, where he's not exactly speedy, but he can get open in space, and that he's got that kind of shiftiness. Whereas Carter's got some speed, and he just finds
Playmaker.
holes and gets up in them.
Yeah, he's a playmaker, and he had in the one of those kickoffs early in the first half. If he
Yeah.
hadn't tripped, he might have been gone again.
Yeah. That one that went to the 30 or whatever. Yeah,
Yeah, it looked
he
like
had a
he
good one
was.
there.
Yeah, if he hadn't tripped,
Yeah.
um,
That
the
punt that he muffed was not great.
it was terrible. More accurately stated.
Yes. we can't seem to find a punt returner who just catches it reliably.
Yeah, I don't think punt returning is his thing because I mean I knew that they hadn't had many punt returns this year, but I didn't realize it was just 6. Even though I do the stats for this every single
Right.
week.
That when they said that, I was like, that sounds wrong to me, just as a
It's
fan.
not. I knew it was really low, but I didn't know it was 6.
I think he just made that number up.
No, he didn't. I knew it
know.
was somewhere in that ballpark. Other notes, glad to see Logan Thomas back. I mean, clearly they were sort of easing him in a little bit.
He made his presence felt pretty quickly, honestly.
He did though. Yeah, and Curtis Samuel, they were obviously easing him in too. So
Yeah.
I mean, they're getting, healthier. Offensive line is a disaster, but in terms of the ball carrying positions, they're getting healthy at the right time.
Yeah. Honestly, that line, like, this might be a problem where they need to make some moves, because like they were a turnstile for a while in this game. Like throughout the game, honestly, if the defense hadn't gotten gassed by being out there, that O-line was a friggin' turnstile for many parts of this game.
I mean, can you blame them though? I mean, look how many people, they're down injury
I mean,
wise.
we got Brandon Scherf in there still. We have
Well, the starting right tackle's out. They're down to the 4th string center at this point.
Yeah, but the guy who's starting at right tackle right now is a guy who was starting at left tackle for us last year. It's not like we're.
I don't think it's a huge drop off, but there's
Yeah.
still. I mean, that's still.
It's
no
not ideal.
cohesion at all and stability at all in the offensive line.
No, I agree, but really, like, both the tackles were struggling today, and it's Leno and who was the other one who was playing?
Well, Cornelius Lucas.
Lucas, right. I just blanked on Cornelius Lucas's last name for some reason. But they're playing, and these guys have had plenty of playtime here, and in the past few years.
I don't think
frankly.
Charles Leno is that good, to be honest.
I don't think he's a great, but he's at least okay. If
you look at his pressure, surrendered and stuff, I mean, it's pretty high. Recognizing he's the left tackle, so it's going to be more difficult. But still, I don't think he's anybody that they need to be all that concerned if he leaves for whatever reason next year.
No, I think a upgrade at left tackle is still probably needed for this
Oh
team.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. We're long past the days of, we had elite left tackle after elite left tackle. Uh, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
Um,
cancer assist on the back of Trent Williams ended that streak.
yeah, yeah. By the way, I was bored and I looked it up. Do you know since 1981 we've had a Pro Bowl left tackle for 20 seasons since then? That's
I'm
unreal.
sure that's the case. I
Yeah,
mean, you
but
think about, I mean, I've said, I think I wrote a column about this even, or
mhm.
part of it. I mean, left tackle has been the best position on the team.
Oh, by
They went
far.
from Joe Jacoby to Jim Lachey to, to Chris Samuels to Trent
Right.
Williams.
But
Teams
I just
don't do that.
counted the seasons where our guy got elected to the Pro Bowl. It was 20 of 40 years.
That's not surprising.
No, actually, it sounds under like we probably could have had more. Anyway, yeah, we needed a left tackle. The line probably is going to need 2 or 3 upgrades next season, just injuries and things like that. But overall, big picture, the offense did get it done when they needed to. The thing that really does irritate me is how conservative I think Scott Turner got as soon as he had the lead in the third quarter. Like this was not a game. I understand why, but this was not a game where you should have just rested at 17. You needed to go for another score every drive. I Once you're up 2 scores, okay, I get playing a little more conservative, but this was not a you can be safe at 1 or at 8 points type game. It
I
felt
don't know
like.
if I agree with you because Seattle's offense, we're going to get to Seattle here in a minute.
Yeah, yeah.
They're just atrocious. I mean, just horrid. For most of that
Even
game.
Horrid gets lucky though, Steve. That's my
Well,
concern.
they did get lucky. I
Yeah.
mean, at the end of the game, but I mean, by Washington's running game is not good, but by their standards, at one point they sort of got it together a little bit in the fourth quarter. So I
Hmm.
kind of understood it, and I think they're resting still on the laurels of them running the clock out against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 3 weeks ago
Right.
because they tried to do the same thing, only it didn't quite work out this
I
time.
mean, it worked pretty well. That last drive took what 6 minutes off or something like that. That was a
Yeah, I
good.
mean, but they left some time on the clock. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
point
You
is they
left more than you
tried,
should have. And
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 that drive was almost 8 minutes.
eight
It
minutes.
was eight
Thank you.
minutes. Yeah.
And again on third down, you ran Antonio Gibson to the outside and he runs out of bounds. I don't know how hard it is to just take him and sit him down and say, "Don't go out of bounds." This is a situation where you should never be out of bounds. Like, it's a little thing, but it's a thing.
It's a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a thing. Um,
All right.
Other
Do you want to switch
offensive.
sides?
Yeah, I don't have necessarily a ton of other offensive notes here. Um, I just this is not a game they're going to write home about, and I think if we're being honest, I mean a lot of this is due to the poor play and incompetence of Seattle Seahawks
Oh yeah,
more
definitely.
so than it is Washington.
Well, I would say,
But a win
and
is a win.
I saw our buddy Rick posted his post game grades, and he said he gave the coaching an A. I don't give our coaching an A. I would say our coaching was a C, but Seattle was a D minus, so we got the edge there, and that's what probably won it for us. Because Seattle, I don't know what they're doing, man. Like Pete Carroll, I think is completely lost somehow. All of a sudden,
Well, I mean, at some point the players have to play. I mean, if you talk
yeah,
about Seattle's offense, which is where we are,
yeah,
number one, their offensive line is just abysmal.
yeah.
I mean, there aren't
Their running game's
adjectives.
abysmal too.
Yeah, abysmal. There aren't adjectives to describe how bad those two units are. I mean, Washington got consistent pressure on Russell Wilson all
Right.
day. Essentially, they controlled the run game. Wilson does not look like himself at all. I don't know if it's the hand injury, if he's still recovering from, or he's just not in sync because he hasn't played. But he threw many passes off target. Didn't
Way
look
over the
like
head too,
himself at
which to
all.
me, we've seen that with Heineke. It's usually a
Heineke
sense
did
of
it
he's not
today.
comfortable. At least with Heineke, that's what it is. So
Heineke did do that today
yeah,
and
yeah, he
got
did.
lucky a couple times,
Right.
you know.
But when Heineke's not comfortable in the pocket, that's when he throws high. And I think we're
Um,
seeing that with Wilson too.
yeah, I think so. And so while I do definitely give credit to Washington's defensive front seven in this game, um, I mean, just be honest and say what's the pattern that we've seen with Seattle over the past 3 weeks? 0 points, 13 points,
Right.
and today 15. But I mean, the only drive where he really looked like himself was the last drive of the game.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And granted, they got a touchdown, early. I mean, I get it, but
Yeah. On that busted play,
yeah,
mostly. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. But like you said, it was a busted play. Russell, I mean, he's a Hall of Famer. He's got it together a little bit at the end of the game, but I mean,
Mhm.
I've just never seen him look that bad before.
No. I don't think he's 100% healthy, and I think he's out of rhythm and all that. Like everything's wrong with him right
And
now.
it was his throwing hand that was off,
Right.
that was hurt. So I mean, I'm no quarterback, but I mean, at his level, I don't think you can just walk back on the field with a
Well,
throwing hand injury. And
I imagine like even if it's healthy, he's probably got pain every time he throws the ball. Just knowing
well,
how long
that
it takes fingers and toes to heal. Like,
yeah, I agree with you, but also throw in there, I mean, how far this team has fallen talent-wise,
oh yeah. Well,
from the
he's got
heyday.
2 good receivers, and
He
that's about
does.
it. That's
Yeah, no tight end,
yeah.
no offensive line, no running backs.
Mhm. Yeah.
And he doesn't and Wilson doesn't run like he used to
Well, he's an old
either.
man by NFL terms, of course.
By NFL terms, he is a little bit,
Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, this is not your daddy's Seahawks anymore,
No. Absolutely
But
not.
credit to Washington. But the negative, I think, on the defense, we saw mix-ups in the secondary again.
Mhm. And
Now the
it's the same kind of culprits we've seen before where it's typically Jackson trying to pass off to a safety. Like, I don't know why they can't get that communication down.
I blame, and Alex is talking about the play in the first half that was the touchdown.
Yeah.
Um, I blame Jackson on that simply because it was clearly press man coverage on the line of scrimmage, and
Right.
they like sort of got caught up in traffic there in the middle of the field, and for some reason he's handing his receiver off to the safety who utterly wasn't expecting it, knowing that it was man coverage, at least man
That's what
coverage
it
with
looked like.
Jackson.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so to me, it looked like that was Jackson's fault.
Yeah, me too. Um, I think we've gone back and forth on different blown plays on whose fault it is, but I think we're in agreement there.
And then the touchdown at the end was some sort of blown coverage too. That I'm not 100% sure what happened.
Yeah, I need to honestly go back and watch that again. They
Yeah,
were saying it was on DeShazer Everett, and he wasn't playing deep enough or something on the broadcast. But they also blamed Cole Holcomb on that first touchdown Seattle threw. It was like, well, Cole Holcomb got out of position. And it's like, how much more in position could he have been? Russell Wilson just threw a great ball to the tight end. Like, I don't think you could really beat that very easily, that first touchdown.
I mean,
It was a great play.
yeah. Sometimes quarterbacks make great plays.
Yes, especially MVP quarterbacks.
And by the way, I was screwing. I wasn't talking about the busted play that was the Jackson Bobby McCain play was not a touchdown. That was just the
It set up
touchdown.
the touchdown.
Right. It set up that I misspoke earlier.
Yeah.
So what else on defense? Jamin Davis made a couple plays, showed his athleticism at least once,
Yeah.
which is more than his normal 0. So that was a good thing. I mean, I liked Shaka Tony made some plays in there.
Yeah, especially in the last 2 drives maybe. He had
His stats. See,
he had a half a sack at least, depending on how they counted it. I would say it was a full sack, but it's probably a
they
half
got
sack.
it. They gave him a full sack, and they gave
Okay.
him a quarterback hit on
Yeah.
top of that. So I mean, he made a little hay, but really, it was the pressure was coming from Matt Ioannidis, Deron Payne, John Allen.
Yeah,
Those
they
are
were
the
bringing it
guys.
inside. They were doing a great job, all of them, on the getting into the flats on kind of lateral type plays.
Yeah.
I saw all of them at least make one tackle, stopping a guy from getting past the first down marker at various points. A running back out on the outside, that kind of thing. So
One more secondary thing. I mean, could there have been an easier interception that Cam Curl dropped?
Oh.
I mean, it literally hit him right in the hands all by
J-
himself in the middle of the field.
Yeah. McCain had one that was actually pretty easy too. A tip ball that he probably should have caught as
Yeah,
well.
that one. But the Cam
Yeah.
Curl one was like
Yeah.
that was
And
like
Fuller
playing
had
pitch
one
and
hit him
catch in the
square in
yard.
the chest.
It was like playing,
Yeah.
catch in the yard, for God's
Yeah.
sakes.
Well, and like that's the thing that when you go back to what happened to Heineke, like that interception he had, like when that ball got tipped up, there were 3 guys who could have made that pick. And
I
that
mean, I
and
didn't think it was a very good decision, and I didn't think it was a very good throw.
see, I didn't like the decision, but I thought the throw hit Logan Thomas right in the like chest
I
area.
thought it kind of sailed a little bit on him. I mean, it wasn't. I would have liked to see more velocity on the throw, but regardless, it shouldn't have been an interception. It was
Mm,
just a crazy tip, and that happens, and
yeah, yeah.
the quarterback's going to take the statistical hit for it. But I mean,
Sure.
it's just one of those, stuff
It
happens.
is what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. The another thing that stood out to me on defense, Landon Collins probably his best game in the past year that I can remember. He had a fumble, he was getting in the backfield a bunch until he got hurt. I thought he had a pretty good day.
Played well. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I
Yeah.
mean, I know the fans love to hate him because they have to hate something, but when the team puts him in a position to succeed and lets him do his thing,
He's okay.
and he's not okay. He's a good player.
Hmm.
But when they're dropping him back in zone coverage and stuff, and like they were doing in the beginning, that's just not his. That is
Yeah.
not. If you pay attention to what the Giants did with him, the Giants had him in the box almost all the time,
Hmm.
and that's where he's best. And now that it took him a while, but now that Washington figured it out,
Yeah.
he's playing pretty well. So
Adjust your scheme to the players. Don't expect the players to adjust to your scheme,
that
kind
was
of
the
thing.
beauty of Joe Gibbs.
Yeah. Oh
Joe
yeah.
Gibbs did not have a scheme and just cram things, square pegs into round holes. He was smart enough to figure out what his team did well.
Yeah.
Jay Gruden was terrible at it.
Well, Jay was bad on defense. His offenses, he knew exactly what he was doing there.
But he was still not willing to deviate at all. He had a scheme and he was going to run his scheme no matter what. Mike Shanahan, same thing. He's going to run his scheme. My point
Mike
is that
definitely. Yeah.
Joe Gibbs was not like that at all. Very creative.
You know who I'd actually say did that pretty well until he was told to stop doing it was Jim Zorn. Like remember how his first 8 weeks he was like 6-2 because he was like, well, I have a good like East Coast smash mouth football team. Let's play that. And then he was told, no, you have to run West Coast offense. That's why we
that
brought
was
you
when they
here.
got the retired bingo caller in to call plays for him.
No, that was the next year. It was
Oh.
Vinny Serrato told Jim Zorn to stop running East Coast smash mouth football or something.
I don't remember that.
I remember
put that
that.
out of
And
my
I was like,
out of my head.
yeah. Well, and look, I'm not a big Jim Zorn fan. I think we all know that. But it doesn't. It's one thing that always puzzles me about coaches. I know there's ego involved, but just play to your guys' strengths. Adjust your whole offense and defense to what your best players do well, and you'll probably have a better team.
Yeah, I mean, this game wasn't necessarily an example of that, but I mean, the strength of this team really is the moxie of Taylor Heineke, and the more you let Taylor be Taylor, the better off this team is.
Yeah, and
will
also past the running backs. That's the other strength.
Well, I mean, we'll see what J.D. McKissick's injury is.
Yeah,
because that
worries me more than almost any of the other injuries.
Well, yeah, I'm that in the center. I mean, they have to have a center on the field, for God's sakes. I mean, that's a problem.
You can't line up a right guard.
They might have to if the next
technically they
hurt.
did with Schweitzer because Schweitzer was the right guard before they moved him to center. So it is one of those ugly situations, and we've seen this happen a few times where you just keep losing guys on the line, and eventually you get desperate, and it's just like, go find a fat guy off the street and have him see what he can do, because that's where you're at.
And I'm looking for info on McKissick's injury, and it's too early.
I think so.
Yeah.
Especially because it was probably some kind of either a concussion, like you said, or a weird nerve pinch stinger type thing, which those require MRIs,
I mean, so listen, we knew Washington had an easier second half of the season. And as weird as it sounds for a team that is, what are they now, 5-7?
5 and 6. right?
5-6.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, that's right. As weird as it is for a team with a losing record, their destiny is actually in their own hands.
Yep.
They've got 5. They need to get past the Raiders, win or lose, and then the season will be determined by how well they do in 5 straight division games to end the season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They could
Exactly.
fall out of it, or they could end up in first place at this point.
Uh,
So we'll see. This game was actually a pretty big deal. Understanding it was an NFC East game. I mean, they overcame demons on the Monday Night Football thing, yes, but the idea of not falling the 4-7 and kind of staying in things here, I
yeah.
think is a much bigger deal than maybe it seemed at first glance.
No, it very much is because, like you said, this means your destiny's in your own hands. Um, it's gonna be the Raiders are gonna be probably the toughest part of this because I think they're a very good team right now after John Gruden left. Um, but because if you look at the NFC East, 5 games, you easily can go 3-2, maybe even 4-1 there.
Well, remember they should have lost to the Giants.
They should have, but
Dallas normally beats Washington. I hate to say it, but they do.
yeah, but Dallas is in a weird slide right
I
now.
understand that, but
Yeah,
the idea of saying they should go 4-1, and let's just
they
pump.
could, not should.
Well, they could go 5-0. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I could
I'm not
also
that
get elected
optimistic.
president.
I'm not that much of an optimist.
Yeah, I mean, there are people who are, but
Yeah.
I guess my point isn't so much that that's necessarily going to happen. It's that they have a chance to control
Mhm.
their own destiny in the season, and we will see how well they do.
Yeah, I think so. All right. Well, you want to do game balls? Get out of here.
Yeah, it's kind of late for us, and
Yeah,
yeah,
it's midnight now. So
yeah. All
all
right,
right.
game balls. Okay, you went first last week, so I
Okay.
guess I'll go first this week.
I already have mine written down, but if you want to go first, go ahead.
You have yours written down?
Yep, I wrote them down during the game.
See, I never do this. I always just wing it, for these. Um, there's not too many great candidates on offense for game balls again,
Mm.
really. You know, um, I don't necessarily think anybody had, a whale of a game or anything. JD McKissick scored 2 touchdowns.
Right.
And so he got 1 running touchdown, 1 receiving touchdown. And he kind of fired the team up. I hate to give a game ball to Taylor Heineke again. I didn't think he had a great game. And I think McKissick with the 2 touchdowns deserves a game ball. So that's where I'm going on offense. And on defense, I'm going Landon Collins.
Okay.
Landon Collins played played a very good game. Let's hope his injury isn't serious. But I think he made a difference. He caused the fumble there in the fourth quarter, by punching a ball out. So
Yep.
I'm going Landon Collins. So for me, it was J.D. McKissick, Landon Collins.
Interesting that both your guys are technically hurt at the end of the game.
Yeah, I
Just
know.
yeah. Yeah. So I actually initially had 2 names written down. I'll say it was gonna be J.D. McKissick and Landon Collins because I thought they both had great games. But in the end, Gibson really carried this team on his back. I know his yards per carry wasn't great, but he got over 100 rushing yards and he had 20 receiving yards, I think. He had a very strong day. He kind of was the backbone of this offense, even though the numbers he didn't get a touchdown. So I'm gonna give it mine to Gibson on offense, and on defense, a little play that probably doesn't show up in the stat sheets because I don't think they keep track of these. Kendall Fuller getting that interception on the 2-point attempt saved the game.
Save the game. Yeah.
Yeah. So he might have played meh the rest of the game, but he made a huge play in the one spot where it mattered most.
And that was a quality play. That was no gift
Right.
from Russell Wilson. It was a tight contested play. I didn't go Gibson because to me, I thought about it, but he averaged 3.8 yards per attempt. And
Yeah,
that was with
I
a long
understand
run.
that.
So yeah,
You're a
yeah.
big yards per attempt guy. I get that.
Yeah.
And by the way, what is it with Russell Wilson throwing picks on those like short yardage goal line situations? Like this is a little bit reminiscent of that Super Bowl in a way,
He's
like
been weirdly out of sync since he's been back from his injury.
Sure. And we didn't even talk about what happened on the final 15 seconds with that onside kick.
Holy Christ. I mean,
Yeah.
really, the penalty, first of all, I mean, Cole Holcomb let the ball bounce over him.
No, it was Kunachek, not Cole Holcomb.
Okay, yeah, sorry, Kunachek.
Yeah.
The ball bounced literally over him.
Right.
Which I didn't totally understand. I mean, Washington could have recovered the ball inside 10 yards. It's just the Seahawks couldn't. So I don't know why Kunachek couldn't make a better effort at that.
I don't know if he had a brain fart on that rule or something.
Especially on the
it made no sense.
Especially on the first one.
Yeah.
But the penalty that the Seahawks got, totally irrelevant penalty. Made no difference at all to the play. It was just dumb luck.
It's one of those stupid rules they've put in there just to make the game less fun.
Well, yeah, it's just dumb luck because again, it didn't affect the play at all. And the way Wilson was rolling, it wouldn't have surprised me a whole lot if he had made, one 15 to 20 yard throw and then they would have had a kickoff with no time left on the clock. That was where we were going with that. Yep. So I'm glad you brought it up because you will not see a crazier end of game than I think what we saw.
Right. And we're lucky it came out for us.
Oh, yeah. Sometimes it's better to be lucky than good.
And this game was definitely, sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. Also, the refs helped. Let's be honest. The refs helped out.
Oh, there were some terrible calls. Yeah.
Oh, and by the way, did you notice that the one sideline judge was wearing sunglasses the whole time?
I did not notice that. No.
There was two sideline judges, a woman and a dude. The dude is wearing sunglasses the whole. It's a night game. What are you wearing sunglasses for?
I'm anti-sunglass because I think people. First of all, I don't own any sunglasses, and people do it mainly because they think it makes them look, cool or tough or something, and to me it makes you look silly. I didn't notice that, but I think that ref is trying to show everybody what a big man he is, and
maybe he lost his prescription glasses. I don't know, but he was wearing sunglasses at night. So he can.
Well, I mean, and how well can he see the game that he's supposed to be reffing if he's wearing sunglasses at night?
That is,
to quote the song lyrics that Alex was quoting, and yes, I got it.
Of course you got it. I don't know if our listeners got it because it's a bit dated.
They most certainly did not.
No.
It's getting loopy. It's Hogside late night.
It's late. Yeah. All right, guys. Take your sunglasses off, put on some pajama pants, and go to bed. That's what I'll tell you.
Yeah, from a schedule wise, I mean, we're obviously day late, but we're gonna have Hold On probably Wednesday, and we'll have Dave's reaction piece probably Wednesday as well. And at some point we'll have a takeaways column. I'll get around to it probably tomorrow. But we'll be back. So it'll be sort of a compressed week from here on out, but we'll be back with the Raiders game preview on Thursday as normal.
Yep. All right, guys. We will talk to you then. Later.